Hey guys, today we are making limber de coco. This is such a treat. In Puerto Rico, we have these all the time during the summer months. They are basically coconut flavored popsicles, and they are so incredibly easy to make. So in a large bowl or blender, we're gonna combine 1 can of coconut milk. And if you're super lucky and you find cans of coconut milk and cream of coconut and all the ingredients we're using that are just perfectly emulsified, you could just use a whisk, but I usually need to use a blender or an immersion blender just to make sure all of the ingredients get perfectly creamy and blended well together. So we're also going to add 1 can of cream of coconut. This is going to add a lot of that sweetness and it's going to amp up the coconut flavor. We're going to need a can of sweetened condensed milk, or if you can find this, I like using sweetened condensed coconut milk, and these cans are about half the size of your traditional can of sweetened condensed milk, so I'm using 2 of them. You'll want about 15 ounces of whichever kind of sweetened condensed milk you end up using. And then we're adding 1 cup of milk. It could be plant-based or whole milk, whatever you have, and some cinnamon. Now we're just gonna blend all of this up. As you can see here, I'm using my immersion blender just because it's a little bit less of a mess, less dishes to do. I love this tool so much, but feel free to just toss everything into a blender and use that. And we're just gonna keep blending until everything is evenly combined and creamy. It should look a little something like this. Of course, you can add less or more cinnamon depending on your preference. And then this is optional, but I love to add some shredded coconut just to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of bite to our popsicles. So we'll whisk that in instead of blending it in just because we want the texture of it. Okay, and now if you have popsicle molds, you could do this in a popsicle mold, but traditionally we eat these out of these plastic cups. I know it's so nostalgic and so special to me, so I opted to use these. And totally optional, but you can add a dusting of cinnamon and shredded coconut to the base of your cups before pouring in our coconut mixture. Now it's totally up to you how high you want to fill these, how big you want your popsicles to be. I went about 3/4 of the way to the top. And again, depending on if you're using popsicle molds or the size of your cups, it's going to vary how many popsicles you make, but just use your own judgment on how big you'd like them to be. I ended up with about 8 popsicles, 8 cups of this liquid. And again, I like to add a dusting of cinnamon and shredded coconut to the top before transferring these into the freezer. Totally optional if you want to add the toppings, or you could just do cinnamon or just the shredded coconut. Completely up to you. Now we're just going to add these to the freezer, and they take about 4 to 6 hours to freeze up, but I just leave them overnight. And then the trick to getting these out of the cups is just to squeeze around the sides and push up from the bottom until they pop out. And then traditionally we like to flip them upside down just so it's really easy to eat. And enjoy. Buen provecho.